I'm just fucking out here just yabbering on, talking about nothing. Dyer, what's up? What's up, TJ? My bad. Caesar. Now you guys can hear me. Um, but so I mean, basically, I'm just talking about a balance zone. Let's go over it real quick. So we had a 4-day balance. We looked below that 4-day balance, but came back in. So we don't consider that, a failure. We just consider it still in balance, right? And so as this happens, as we come back into balance, we look to fade the edges of balance and trade to the other edge of balance. And so once it gets up here, we can kind of expect some more selling. This is where sellers are probably going to be active. And so what I was saying is we have kind of the meat, right, at this kind of 25 to 35 where all the value is at. And if price gets up here and buyers decide, oh, okay, this is a good spot to buy again. We bought here before, even though we looked down on Thursday or on Monday, they buy it again, and it turns out that they did. Price is moving up a little bit towards these highs, right? These are going to become the targets of the rest of today as we continue inside of balance. um I'm not really getting my hopes up too much that all of these single prints hold. That's a lot of single prints, um and not a lot of news kind of driving us up. We are seeing a lot of upside in the market. Lord MacGyver, you should be able to hear me now. I bet. um so really, I mean, I'm in a long right now and I'm looking for that 55, and that's probably where I'll cover most of my position because I kind of expect sellers to be active up here, right? We should get some responsive sellers to come in um, up here. And let's take a peek at the bar chart. I switched it to this red and white because I was just looking at it. Um, something that I don't know. I like to switch things up, get a fresh perspective. Sometimes when you look at the same thing over and over, you fail to see what's going on. And actually, you know what? I'll actually tell you something very interesting that happened to me last night when I was doing my um analysis. Oh, hey Marcine, Jamie, Cam, Patrick, Pop, Trin, Adam, Tommy. Good morning, everybody, or afternoon, or Tommy, good evening. For you, it's about dinner time. But yeah, so sometimes I will do these things. It's not like I'm changing anything, right? There's nothing changing. It's just the aesthetic look of the bar. But sometimes you just get so comfortable when you're looking at something and you're like, oh, okay, right? And so yesterday when I was, oh yeah, Lord, yeah, I had it muted. That was my fault. I'm a amateur streamer. Just it's not something that, and this is a good. Here I go. I'm gonna have to start writing stuff down because I start to get on these tangents. But um, this is something that everybody can do, not just me, but something that I do personally is I tend not to say like, oh, I'm not very good at this. I just tend to say, it's just not something that I put a lot of effort into to become good at, right? Because I'm sure if I did put a lot of effort into it to be good at it, I probably would be good at it. It's just I put my effort other places, right? Being a production person is just probably something that I will never master based off of my own choice, right? Just because one, I don't have the time to be as good as I want to be, and two, I just don't have the passion for it, to be honest with you. Um, yeah, being a good trader is probably better than being a good streamer, that's for sure. Um, but anyway, so last night I just had, just this negative bias. I'm like, we're gonna, we broke out of balance and then we came back in, but we're just looking for the rejection, and then this thing's just gonna fucking fall out of the sky. And I was like, let me switch to the bars. Like, I mess around with the charts all the time, guys, just to look at them from a different perspective. And so then yesterday I'm kind of looking at this and I'm like, and I'm like, oh, I guess we're just kind of stuck in balance. And if we look back here, we see a lot of previous auctions that have ended in this same spot, right? We're kind of still at that spot that we've talked about before. This is, I think, last Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Yeah, it is. It's last Tuesday. We talked about the same thing when we came down to this level. And then again on Thursday, when we came down a level, we talked about the same thing. And so then yesterday, when we did it, we didn't make any significant ground. And when you think about it, there's no from here, below that 75. I think my level was, I can't remember what it said on the trade view. I think it was 75. I wanted to see us hold below 75. We didn't get down there today, but I'd like to see us hold below 75, which could open up some of this previous day's range, but we just didn't get down there. And so even though I had a negative bias, I was able to maintain perspective and not just be short on on something that looks like this, right? Because how many people today, and let's be honest here, how many people today watch the open and then we're immediately thinking like, okay, when can I get short? Right? It's a natural habit when you get on and something's way up, you're like, oh, it's got to come down eventually. Let me just get short right now, and then eventually, you get kind of stuck in a position that you just don't want to be in. It's natural, right? It's a natural thing. But if you have these other things in place, or other ways to kind of combat these biases, then you will be able to maintain perspective, right? Which is one thing Jim Dalton is big on, is maintaining perspective. Um, a little peek around the market real quick. Take a peek at the tick. We can see the buying has just been getting stronger and stronger in the weighted sections. And we have, until LD section, we've pretty much had all of our ticks ticking above. Our advanced decline lines way up. We can see pretty much everything except energy is green. If we take a peek over at the market watch and click on the S&P 500, you can see how green everything is looking. Except for energy, and really it's just XOM, CBX, little Pfizer action, little Lilly, little Abby buy. Johnson Johnson's getting a boost, right? They've got earnings this week. Netflix has earnings today, I think, after hours. But then we can see like Apple's up 1%, Microsoft 1%, Google's up 1.5%, Amazon 2.5%, Tesla 2.25%, Nvidia 1.8, Facebook 2.3. And you know what's funny too is, so yesterday I was on the phone with James and I was like, I was telling him, I'm like, oh, like right when the aftermarket opened, I opened up a short position. Um, I think it was at 4403 during Globex. And it was just because I was on the computer and I just wanted to get a little piece of action. Um, and I closed it at like 4400 or something like that. And it was like right here. So it was before this little pop and then drop and then pop again. And I closed it and I was like, you know what? I just have some weird feeling that this market for some reason is going to go up. And so um, we talked about it last week, or we've talked about it before, right? The COT reports and things like that. And I'm always looking at these COT reports. Well, I'm always trying to find patterns in everything that I do, right? Because that's just how, the world works. Ask Fibonacci. Right? The world works in these patterns. Well, I was looking at this. So this is the COT report. This is a financial futures net positions, right? I don't care about a lot of the other stuff, but I was looking at the indices, and so I'm looking at the S&P, and I'm thinking like, oh, okay, from last week, April 5th, and if we do it like this, so we can um so April 5th, which is here, right? During this big down bar, you had them really short, negative 117,000 contracts. And this is dealers, right? These are the people that take the opposite position of everybody else, right? So they're getting more and more negative. And they actually hit a 52-week high in March 29th, right? So that can tell you that pretty much everybody's getting out of their positions there. And then this past week, last Tuesday, which is the 12th, they're even shorter. So I was like, okay, that's weird. So let's look at institutional money. Institutional money didn't get longer, but they are still, relatively long, but a decrease. And then you look at leveraged funds. Leveraged funds price went down as well, right? Or they took off some of their short position, right? And then you look at other reportables, which is like you and I, retail traders, and they're just like super short because they're all just fucking, you know, psychopaths. And I was thinking like, okay, well, if dealers are short, um, dealers end up getting more short, but asset managers didn't get more short, and leverage funds didn't get more short. So that must just be retail getting short, and there's probably decent odds because those are weak-handed traders that we might get a little bit of pop. And then I'm thinking to myself, okay, we have earnings as well. That's going to bring in some more buyers into the market, and you know, there's good odds there that we that we get a little pop too, because a lot of people, you know, associate earnings with, you know, going up for some reason, even though earnings can be bad and shit can go down. So, you know, it was just kind of a weird thing, and it happened. It was weird because as I was typing a report saying like, hey, we should be looking for this on the downside and this on the downside, I started just kind of looking around and was like, you know what? I don't think that's a good idea. I think we need to be careful tomorrow because this market doesn't, it's confused. And it's really, you know, it's really almost obvious how confused the market is right now because of how it's acting, right? And if we look at it, this gives us a chance to look at it a little bit more open. We can see we did have, so here's the all-time high. We had a lower low. Now we've had a lower high. And so in reality, you know, I don't think there's any clear direction. So anyone that's calling bull, bear, blah, 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 I don't think there's any real full on direction yet. The market just hasn't decided what it wants to do. I will say that, you know, most of the move, if we jump around the market a little bit, like here's the 10-year interest rate, or interest rates, the 10-year treasury note, it's just interest rates pretty much. You know, just fucking skying, almost getting up to that 3% level. You know, that's pretty high, right? A lot of these banks aren't going to be giving out money, and so this is going to affect the economy, right? And the whole point of raising these interest rates is to try to slow the economy. So I understand like what they're trying to do. It's just that the stock market doesn't seem to give a shit. You know what I mean? So they're smacking the shit out of the housing market and the car market right now. The Fed is um, trying to slow the demand to shift money, but people are, I think, under appreciating what's actually happening, and stocks are not suffering, right? I mean, commodities are up. Let's see, take a peek at oil. Did oil come down? The oil's down about 5% today. That's good, and that's thanks to China, believe it or not, but it is. The VIX is down 21%, makes sense. DLT is not down. Bonds are barely down. Yeah, I mean, it's just, you know, it's tough to be out there and just decide, oh, well, I'm just I'm just gonna be negative because everything else around me is negative, right? It's almost like the stock market's trying to teach you how to be a decent human being, you know? People say people are a product of their environment, right? Which I do believe that a lot of times that is unfortunately what happens, but it's also because a lot of times they don't have somebody there to help them out. And
I think it's
so
more when you're a kid, though.
it is. Yeah, it is. But the thing is, a lot of these kids grow up and become adults and still have never heard that lesson because they don't teach it in school. They don't teach you about how hard life is in school. They teach you how to learn, how to get a right answer. Right? That's not very helpful in life, and it's helpful in academics. They teach you how to pass college. That's what high school is all about pretty much.
You got to be a good worker.
They don't teach you how to be good at life. And so, it's unfortunate, but there's also a point, especially now, which is why I have no sympathy a lot of times for younger people, because they have the capability at their fingertips. But if you think about it, think about when you first started getting on the internet, or even now, think about yourself as an adult. How much time do you waste, and I mean waste, on shit you don't need to be on, where you could be using that time more productively to maybe listen to a book or read a book, or you know, maybe do some chart analysis if that's where you're trying to improve. Maybe do some jumping jacks if you're just standing there or sitting there while you're scrolling through TikTok. Or I get stuck on fucking YouTube videos. I'm not gonna say that I'm a perfect person. That would just be a fucking lie. I mean, I've been stuck on YouTube Reels for a minute. So I get on these tangents of motivational speakers, and I'm just like, I mean, I don't wouldn't say that that's a waste, but I definitely don't need to listen to 20 motivational speeches in a row. I just like to. Gets me amped up. And that's the thing, is like the market's kind of underappreciating that, and it probably has to do with a lot of retail traders that are not using the internet for the right reasons. They're seeing all the ads come up, and it's like, hey, it's earnings season, time to buy, stock market's gonna go crazy, blah blah blah. It's down right now, buy the dip. But you know, if you don't take a peek like that, I mean, look at corn, and it did fade today. Thank God. Corn broke out. We've been talking about this for days, right? This is like the highest corn's ever been, I think, maybe, or maybe since 2012. This is the highest. Well, it was actually higher than that. I mean, it's the highest it's ever been since 2012. Look at this.
I thought you said porn.
No, but that's probably pretty high this year too, with all the internet. Um, so the reason I'm kind of bringing this all up and stuff is I just want you guys to just be careful. You know what I mean? Just be careful on on the stock market, right? I just don't want you guys to get um caught up in something that, because you just never always use a stop loss, right? You could probably game less, to be honest. Yeah, you probably could. One thing I tell my buddy Jared all the time is like, if you want to be serious about this, um, and trade, like you've got to game less. As annoying as it seems, you want to do both, but when you're in those beginning stages and you're really trying to commit, you've got to be in the gym a lot. Yeah, unfortunately, and that's where the sacrifice has to come. And it's a delicate sacrifice too, because you've also got to, you've got to convince your brain that you're studying because you want to. Because if you're just, in there studying because you have to, but you're thinking about gaming the whole time, well, the studying isn't going to be very beneficial, almost be a waste. So um, it's a difficult task. I was listening to Atomic Habits again this weekend, and if anyone hasn't read that, what's up, Double R? If anyone hasn't read that, I recommend checking it out for sure. It's a it's a good read, and can kind of, give you, he talks about the author's name of Atomic Habit, James Clear. In Atomic Habits, James Clear talks about habit stacking. So like um doing tiny changes, but then just stacking them on to each other, right? And I mean, everyone is going to be different, and that's one thing he talks about in there. And that's it. It kind of just makes me think about a message I got recently. about like, oh hey, you're so negative about the stock market, but it keeps going up. Like it's like what the fuck, like kind of a rude message that I got on Discord. Um, and so I just sent them the title of this book. I said, hey, you should read this book. And they didn't say anything back, right? Probably they're like, fuck you, you don't know shit. Um, but it's such a good book, and such a, if you feel like you're having a little bit of trouble like getting to that next level, probably I would I would I would I would I would just bet 100 on it actually. You know what? I 100% believe it. If you've spent a lot of time on the charts and you feel like boom, you've got the auction down and you understand what's going on the charts and you can see the clear direction, but every time it's your entries that are getting you, right? I think, and I'm not a scientist, so I'm saying I think because this is just my anecdotal opinion. The problem is you, and not you, uh, but your brain, Brad the Bear. Um, you know, and so because of that emotion that is getting in the way of that, it will always affect you until you address it, right? And so that's when, I mean, everything comes back: journaling, fucking, building a routine, a habit structure, writing things down, like all of these things that I keep harping about. um you know I think they are just so important. And when I was doing the trade view last night, it just really resonated with me on how important it truly is, because as I was writing that, the whole time I was like, when I get to this last page, I'm gonna talk about the market just falling out of the fucking sky because it's weak as shit, right? And then as I, maintained my routine and looked from out to in, I realized that when we zoom out, when you zoom out on the market, right? Let's take a peek at the ES here. Um, this is the 1 month chart. I mean, it doesn't look weak, right? It looks strong to me, right? And then we look at the weekly, and I know the weekly probably is just getting people, almost just juiced, because what does the weekly look like? Anybody? I hate these fucking bars now. All right, guys, we're gonna switch to the bars. I gotta change the colors though. That's good.
That button right there that says thin bars, always uncheck that. Makes it a little easier to see.
The fuck just happened? Where does it say thin bars at, TJ?
That same screen that you were just on.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
that blue checkbox. Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, that looks better. Maybe we will have to do them in black on here because the background's not black. Okay. So, I mean, when you look at something like this is almost, your classic flag pattern, right? And when it's to the upside, it's a bull flag. And so they say, if anyone does any research, as long as, I mean, they say that a bull flag extends to the 50% retracement, and then as long as it maintains that 50% retracement, it is solid. Well, pretty much right at 50% from yesterday. So according to, candlestick patterns, it looks strong, right? I mean, it is making a lower high, but until it makes a lower low, it's not really convincing us that it's going down, right? At least not at the pace that the internet is telling everybody that it is going down at. And so, it's just like just something that we've got to do to maintain perspective. We're seeing the market, to me right now, kind of look like it's forming, this big P shape. Like I said, I think a bunch of retail traders got trapped short, and here goes the cover, right? All this short covering. I mean, the volume it's not anything crazy. And then we're just getting this P formation. So if you're not in a trade right now, the next thing to monitor is just if we're going to break out of this P formation, right? To the upside or to the downside. We have single prints to the downside, all of these A single prints. And then we also have this kind of triple pour high right here, making it a pour high and a weak high. Oh, and then I wanted to talk about this yesterday's trading. I know I didn't stream yesterday, but if you guys watched the market yesterday, and it's pretty obvious here, and it was pretty obvious yesterday as well. Um, Yesterday when the market broke, so the market went like this, right, and A, B, and C just kind of hung out up here, and then broke. Well, when it did break, and then it did, this 3 time periods below, right? So let's look at this like an auction. My pen at draw. So market opens, it auctions up, the market stops auctioning up, auctions down, B period opens, the market's not done auctioning down, it auctions down, doesn't break the open. Where was the open? Here. And then it auctions back up. C opens, C actually auctioned up first, hit the high, the auction was over. So the auction was over 3 times in the same spot. Comes down, breaks. I'll let you guys know if the market breaks here. But comes down, breaks, spends, a significant amount of time down here below the open, which was here, and it was down below the previous day's range, but volume never followed, right? Then we got that short covering rally, and then they basically did a rinse and repeat right at the end of the day. But even as the day went on, and I know, like, obviously the TPO, I mean, the TPO's the widest point of the TPO is right here, and you can tell the volume didn't follow, but it was obvious because you never saw any volume push down yesterday. And that's why I posted in the Discord, like, hey, like, be careful, because this was the overnight point of control. I think the overnight point of control was like 65 or something, 66. But because of how it was going and there was no volume, it was almost pretty clear, like, hey, this thing is probably gonna at least make a move after the single prints, because there was some single prints that were left behind. Hopefully that kind of explains that process yesterday if you weren't able to fully understand that auction and kind of how it went yesterday. Shoot this on 2 ticks. Looks extended. Apple's still looking strong here, up 1.3. Google's up 1.3. Amazon's almost up 3%. Tesla's up 2.5%. Yeah, I mean, there's just not a reason yet to be shorting the market. But if we do get a break, and you can see kind of in B period was kind of a grind up, but there'll be some spots where these late buyers, which is what's happening here in all of these spots. These are just kind of late momentum traders just buying above the previous day's high as the market auctioned up quick. And then we're kind of seeing the value form up here. So if we were to, if we really were to just get rid of A period, you could consider all of these most likely short covering, and then the P profile, right? Because we could consider this move probably a correction of the overnight inventory that got short right at the very end of the day, or at least got not long right at the very end of the day. And then you got the volume, and then, you know, the market started to go, and then all of these people just kind of giving up slowly. And then now we're starting to see the short coming. Every time it comes down, we see it kind of move up. So there's no reason to get against that. If we're not seeing any selling in the market yet, there's no reason for us to be selling. Does that make sense? What a wonderful thing the TPO is. There is. That 39136 level just does it again too. I mean, I know it's not perfect. Acting as pretty decent support. I mean, we could bring this thing all the way back too. See if they got this to take it over. A little bit of absorption up here still by these sellers. They're stacking at the top now, these sellers are. They did. That was a quick response, right? So try to think, we might have found some sellers, which would make sense. We're up at this 50 level almost. They're just not chasing the price down. They're basically just kind of holding it up there, like at from like 47, it looks like, to 50. Their orders. See if they can get past these guys. I mean, it just looks like there's just going to be a fucking massacre here. A bunch of, like, another short covering rally. And the target would be, go back to the ES. The target on the daily balance. This doesn't do. Pop this out real quick. So we have our balance high at 44.66. That number should resonate with you guys, hearing that number, because we've heard it a lot lately. Sellers still absorbing up here. And we're seeing some big orders move down to try to just hold the market down. Really, I think if we get above that. I mean, there's just people looking to short cover, I think, all the way to the top of balance. So you've got to think about it. When we have something like this, and we have when we have a balance, most of the time people are shorting here, then they're shorting on the way down, and then you get late momentum shorters that get trapped short and responsive buying. The auction changes, moves back up, and it does the same thing over and over, right? But when you have something like this is kind of a significant event. We break out of balance. A lot of people probably piled in short, even though we didn't get any continuation. But a lot of people probably got stuck, and they're just getting squeezed. And a lot of times what people do they'll hide their stops behind, previous bars. Most of the time it's a 30-minute bar, and there's always stops behind a 30-minute bar. But sometimes, if they've got a little bit more size on them, let's say they're a leveraged fund or a hedge fund or something like that, they might use the previous day, or maybe they'll use the balance high, something like that. And then what happens is, you start getting all this short covering, especially above this 50 here. Let's see actually exactly what that number is. This high here is 55.75. So let's say pop that 55.75, next target becomes the 66 like we talked about. And then the 200 moving average is just so close. So all these people that were short here got stopped out here. They're like, oh shit, we're going to the 200. And then they start piling in here, right up at the top. And then what can happen is you get a break of the balance to the upside, and then it could fall back in and you get a bunch more trapped, and then they just do rinse and repeat until Thursday, and then Powell comes on Thursday and then just, makes the market his bitch. Let's see if so this is kind of where we were at when we did that. Somebody called it the Bart Simpson thing. It was basically a test above balance, fail, back into balance. So, this is kind of this thing we did, test below balance, fail, and this time we came straight through balance, got above it, and you can see the balance here. A little bigger. So, all right, we can see the balance here. We had 2-day balance, then a 3-day balance inside of the 2-day balance. This thing moved up, failed, moved back into balance, checked below, didn't like that, came all the way through balance, and then, started building volume above, and it's now popped above this look above and fail. So if we get Bitcoin to hold support here, the target will be, whatever this level is here at 42,084. I would even say, okay, like that. I like it here. 41,932. So if it holds here, there's probably good odds that it's gonna get back up there. So now we have excess on the high. Remember that. I mean, it looks like 2 ticks here, but that's how you've got to be thinking about this is, markets auction up, then they stop auctioning up, and then they auction down. Then they stop auctioning down, then they auction up. That's how price works. Market moves up until nobody buys it, then it moves down until nobody sells it. Then it moves up till nobody buys it, then it moves down until nobody sells it. Sometimes people buy it longer and longer, and then they sell it less and less. And that's how you get these trends in the market. Sometimes they sell it more, right? So the trend is made. So we have to be, looking at all of these details. And right now, I'm sure on a candlestick chart, this probably doesn't look amazing, but yeah, on a candlestick chart, it just looks like a triple top, right? But this is showing us decent excess for now, so that auction might be done. So what we're basically paying attention to now, if you're not short, you're looking for a spot where responsive buying is going to happen. And you have, some of these ledges forming that in volume here. So E came down, it found some buying, auctioned up, found some selling, and now we're seeing the volume continue to come up higher. So it's not coming back down as far. So we're seeing initiated buying pop up here. You're just seeing them hold the, the very top, and that's a kind of tricky situation. Is like we're seeing initiated buying, but we're also seeing a little bit of absorption, and we're not seeing any follow through buying at these highs. And so, if you're holding a long position, you're kind of like, shit, should I just take profit? What should I do? And I really just think they're about to just short cover the fuck out of this thing. They just, for some reason, just like can't. It's like there's just too much supply up there. Let me take a look at the today. Target filled. There we go, baby. Who was that? Hmm. They're just short covering the fuck out of it. Love it. Love to see it. Oh my gosh. So you see the big volume step up? We're 2.25% higher than Friday's volume right now. Once we get to that 55.75, just look to if you're long, look to cover um up there if not before, because you could see some responsive selling up here for sure as because we're in we're in balance, so we could expect selling towards the top of the range. It'd be nice if we're just like goodbye balance, but it just doesn't always work like that. And if we get up to this 55 and start to hold, the next level up's gonna be this 66 level. What's up, TJ?
I was gonna say, just hit my daily goal from the campground.
Let's go. From the campgrounds. Oh, that's right. I saw that picture. Where are you guys at?
Yeah. We're at Oak Mountain State Park in Alabama.
Nice. That's fun. I love camping, man. I just need like I like just being in the outdoors. So like this weekend we went down to my brother's house and he's out in the Santa Cruz Mountains. And it's just so much fun because it's just, relaxing and like more like slow than living in the city or anything like that. It was pretty fun.
Yeah, for sure.
Resistance here. 52 to 56 I have marked on my chart as resistance from before. So let's see if they do a little bit of backfilling or if we start to get some good volume. I mean, to me, it looks like we're still getting that good volume coming in, and it looks like a P profile that's breaking out to the upside. It's just a matter of if we get continuation, right? And that's the big thing is, you know, brings it into another point when we're talking about a P profile, right? When it does break up or if it breaks down, the key thing that you have to monitor for is continuation. So just because it broke up, don't just get blindsided and think, okay, I'm long and I'm just going to be long because the P profile broke up. It's just not that simple. We've always got to be monitoring for continuation. Oh, what's up, Alex? Off the charts for 3 weeks. Oh, nice. You know, sometimes it's nice to get off the charts for a bit and then come back on. And then, you know, we're actually seeing sellers move down here. So this might have been a good absorption. We have good excess on the top now. Kind of had, I guess we kind of had poor excess earlier, even though it was 2 ticks. It was really like 5 ticks, but gotta be careful here. Yes, it looks like sellers are moving down here. Let's watch for this volume on this 46. Notice the tempo moving down. It was almost like a blow off, right? So like we talked about when you've got a little bit too much inventory. So let's say you're selling these TVs for 4, 4, 4, 5, and fucking everyone's just buying them, right? Everyone's buying them. Everyone's buying them. They're just going out of stock, and so you get a new shipment in, right? And so now you've got all these TVs and people are still buying them. Well, what are you gonna do as, you know, normal business person? You know, if everyone's buying them all the time, you're running out of stock at 445, you're gonna raise the price. So the market auctions up, they raise the price up to, you know, 44.50, and less people buy, right? Less people keep buying. Because at this level, it was just like everyone is buying. Anytime they got a chance, here, I'll buy that, I'll buy that, I'll buy that. You know, everybody that got a chance bought that. And we're seeing it come back down to this volume, so we got to pay attention if they're going to buy it again. But this is what happens. They auction it up. A bunch of people get a chance to buy it. You get people that get stuck, so the dealers get a chance to make some profit here, and then they sell a bunch up here and then come back down here. I mean, it's just you know, just that's just how it works. That's just the auction. And if you just convince your brain like, okay, they're just gotta move price up, and then people stop buying them, and then boom, they're gonna move it down until people start buying it again. And so they're just auctioning it down, right? Until people start buying it. Well, this is the spot we saw people buy it last time, but we monitor to see if they're gonna do it again. And now we've kind of identified our seller where they're sitting at, and I think it's, you know, 52 to 56 here, is where our responsive selling is at. And so now what I'm looking for is, are we going to hold this, you know, 47 level, or are we going to be pushing closer down to this 42-40 level? And that kind of makes me nervous the lower it gets, because we do have a little volume cliff here, right? And I think a lot of this is late or weak-handed traders here. You know, smart money was buying here and scooping up all the short covering on the way up. And I think retail traders are late. They're buying here. And if we get below it, I'm not a huge fan of being in that position. So this is a tough day because I want to get in on a pullback, but I don't want to. It's tough to get in here because this stop probably isn't going to do, and so you're looking at putting a stop maybe down here, which is 10 points, and so then you've got to be looking for at least, you know, 20 points above. Would be 63 at target 66. I mean, that's not a bad play there. Might be a decent opportunity. Sellers are still moving us down here though, and they're still moving down to try to fill. And that's what kind of is making me think that it's short covering, because they're just trying to get out as fast as they can, it seems like. It's like anytime the market moves down, all of a sudden it pops right back up. Because some of these sellers are just trying to short cover. What are you training to be, Alex? What kind of job is it training for? Pentagon sees preludes to larger Russian operation in Donbass. Is that how you say it? Donbass? Forgive me if I got it wrong. We got what F period just opened up. I guess bring it down. Watch for them to fill this in, right? This was what's going to kind of tell us um, if value is being accepted, right? Let's zoom this out a little bit. We can take a okay. So when we're looking at it like this, right, we can see the balance here. We're pretty much just in a balance. Well, we talked about that 35, 25 to 35 being where all of our value is at. So if we're starting to form value above that, right, we've put a decent amount of value here. So this could be initiated buying, responsive selling. It could be a combination of both. Only time's going to tell, obviously. Um, but we've got to just you've got to be just kind of trying to track this. And today, at least, the safer play is value is higher, right? And it's kind of gapping higher if we really look at it. Value is way up here, and really, mean value is just up here. So we're kind of gapping higher on value. So the safer side would be to be looking to buy pullbacks all day today. And so if that's what smart money would do, that's what we want to do. And as the market pulls back, we've got to just monitor to see, are they buying responsively, and are we getting or are they buying initiatively, or maybe a combination of both, right? Well, we kind of seen a lot of action up here, so there might be some initiated buying, but it just might not be strong enough to absorb the responsive selling, or to push over the responsive selling that there was, right? So they have to kind of come back down, find their buddies, and see if their buddies still want to play ball. They come down and then maybe challenge that level again. But if they're not able to, and we start to get back into where all this volume was at, because guaranteed there's a lot of short volume in here too, that probably let some go and then maybe re-shorted from up here. That's why I think a lot of this is short covering. But couple levels, boom. I'm looking at it like if we start to spend too much time here, might get a bunch of sellers that are confident, or maybe a bunch of retail traders to come in and be like, oh, I'm going to short the market because the market's up. Because that's just what I do. And you could see a little bit more of a dip. So really going to be an interesting spot to see if we continue to build value higher, right? And that's kind of what we're monitoring is value. Where is value going? Well, value is going up today. And we're in balance, and we kind of failed the downside of balance, and we kind of expect, us to test the top of balance. Now that we're definitely seeing, for the most part, acceptance back inside of balance, it's hard to be just randomly getting short. Oh, Apple's coming down here. Apple's only up less than 1% now. Microsoft 1.24, Google's 1.25, Amazon's still almost 3, Tesla's almost 2.5. Facebook's up 2.8, Nvidia's up 2%. It's not. And you guys want to see something that's actually kind of funny too. Remember the last Fed move? 44.72. Then we got the 200. Well, I don't know if the 200's at I haven't updated the 200. See, 200's at 44.90. That one's wrong, but I mean, it seems like that just seems like the target, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, we're right here back at the Fed move. The Fed's on again Thursday, kind of just seems vicious. I think one of the Feds is on right now, too. No, no, nothing really. Just day 5 of the Johnny Depp Amber Heard defamation suit. So let's see what we get here. We got a weak high on F. We came right back down to that volume out 43. See if Apple gets some buying it. Apple's still ticking down a little bit here. Ooh, Apple's really starting to tick down. There we go. Ooh, there they are. Buyers are coming in Apple right here. This might cause the pop if they keep going. No follow through. What did anybody do the exercise besides Jamie this weekend that I was talking about? We go Apple's kind of gassing here. But Google's coming back now. Oh, there we go. Starting to see some red in like healthcare. So yesterday I posted in the Discord, it wasn't homework. It was just an exercise. Um, but I posted where I posted it. I think I posted under general chat. Yeah, I said there's only this is what I wanted to bring up actually today. So perfect. Glad I typed it. So we've been doing a lot of trading, and I take pretty diligent notes and have a pretty good memory. And I was thinking, what is a lot of people's uh biggest adversary, right? And what's the biggest adversary in the stock market specifically, or just trading in general, that you always see, and everybody seems to know, that's been trading for a couple of days or a couple of seconds. It seems, if they've watched a trading video ever in their life, that they've heard of FOMO, right? The fear of missing out. And so a lot of people think, oh, don't get FOMO, don't get FOMO. And so they tell themselves, oh, I'm not going to trade because I don't want to have FOMO. And so then they end up just never trading, never taking any risk. And without taking any risk, you can never improve. It's just science. But how can you combat it if you don't face that, right? And so my challenge was to find a chart, do some technical analysis, if that's what you call it. I mean, that's just what I call it, because you're using all kinds of different things and bringing them all together. I know a lot of people call technical analysis like only with moving averages and shit. It's they're just paying attention to shit that is just not necessary, right? So just do some analysis on some charts that you think are going to move, right? Find a chart that you think is going to move, and then draw your trade plan, write your trade plan, and then watch the chart go out without trading it, right? Just watch it. If your issue is over trading, this is how you're going to combat that FOMO, right? If your issue is under trading, like you don't take any trades because you have a fear of losing, right? Because you're normally, when you have a fear of missing out, you end up over trading. And that's what most people do. Most people over trade. I'd probably say about 100% of people over trade, including myself. There's trades that I take that I just don't need to and shouldn't, but end up just just happens sometimes. Nobody's perfect. But in order to combat that fear of missing out, you've got to set up your trade plan and watch it trade out, right? And then understand, like, okay, I can do that. I can watch something happen without having to be involved. And then it starts to reinforce a different type of habit, because a lot of people's issues, they're at the computer and they're just like, okay, are we ticking up or are we ticking down, and which way am I getting in, right? They're just ready to get into it, and they're not willing to just sit there and wait for the right pitch to come, so they can get on base. right? They're just swinging at every pitch, hoping that one goes over the fence. And so if you weren't in the Discord or you didn't see it this weekend, I said basically that, right, in text format, and then I just wanted everyone to share, and only one person shared. But you know, you don't necessarily need to share in the Discord, but just share it with yourself or share it with somebody. Like, you know, you've got to be. I think one thing that will help is putting it out there or talking to the community about it. I don't think it's the only thing that will help, but I think that not doing it is definitely doing yourself a disservice. And that's kind of a fear that a lot of people see in trading as well, is they have this kind of vulnerability. You know what I mean? Where they don't want to show that they lost the trade. They only want to win trades and they don't want to lose any trades. And that's what happens is if you can't share it with a bunch of people that you don't know on the internet, make it kind of tough to run a business. And that's kind of what you're doing here. You're running a business for yourself, but you're not sharing the results with anybody. So you've got a bunch of people that are running similar businesses that may have found, things that work. And if you're not sharing where some of your faults are at, it's going to be hard to improve. You know what I mean? And that's just something, it's just part of the journey, right? Vulnerability. Think about athletes, when they're in pain, they've got to tell somebody. What happens is that a lot of times they hide the pain, or they play through the pain, and then catastrophic injuries happen that ruin their careers. And it's the same thing in trading. You have these catastrophic events because people aren't willing to just admit when they're wrong, or just to be wrong in general. They just think that they need to be right all the time, and it's just one trading day that ruins their whole account, right? They have 100 days in a row, $50, $50, $50, $50, whatever it is, and just one day, boom, all their shit's gone because they just couldn't be wrong. And if you don't share that information, it's tough, right? And everyone in the Discord is pretty nice. So if you're not in the Discord and you want to be in the Discord, just give me a shout and I'll post the Discord link in the chat, and then introduce yourself, get to know everybody, and then just, find somebody, or just find everybody. I love to comment on stuff that people post. And then on the inverse side of that, right? We didn't talk about the inverse side. So if you're having a fear of losing, right? What I want you to do is to find a chart, like scan through the charts, find a chart that you want to play, and then play it. And what I mean, as kind of bad as this sounds, it's part of the journey. I want you to trade it, find your entry, predefine your stop loss, predefine your take profit, and then just don't touch it. Just watch it play out, right? If you're one of those people that just never end up placing a trade, and then you always see it and then it does it, but then you don't trade it, you have, kind of the opposite issue of FOMO, is you have that fear of losing. And um it's that's one way that you can try and combat it. I'm not saying bet the farm on that trade, take, obviously it's a training trade, but that's one way that you're going to be able to get ahead of that, or to at least face it. And if you don't face your fears, it's just you can't improve on things that you don't have to face. Does that make sense? Like, you're not going to get better at fucking shooting free throws if you never shoot free throws, right? Like, all these kids that play basketball now only shoot fucking threes, and you wonder why the NBA, they field goal percentage from the free throw line has gone down. It's because people don't practice that shit because they don't care about that. One of my fears is being the focus of attention, so I tend not to speak because then all my eyes and ears are looking at me, and I'm afraid of looking stupid. Yeah, I mean that's definitely, but think about it. I say stupid shit every day on the internet, like almost constantly, I feel like. Um it's just one thing. I mean, for me, I that's not a fear I have, so I definitely it's hard to empathize, but I definitely understand it. Um because I took a lot of interpersonal communication classes in college, and you get a lot of the people that are taking that class that are just taking that class to check a block, and then you have people like me that are taking that class to because they enjoy stuff like that, and you can just tell because in that class they force you to stand up and speak in front of everyone, and it's easy to tell the people that want to do it and the people that don't want to do it. Unfortunately for you, it's part of the business that you're trying to be in, and so you're just gonna have to figure out how to do it. So if you don't want to do it in front of a bunch of people, I would find a buddy on the Discord and just jump in a Discord call and be like, hey, this is what I've been doing, like what have you been doing, and just talk it over, or use your wife, or just somebody where you can get out there, get it out instead of just telling it to yourself. Fed Evan says if we don't see inflation coming down, we are going to raise rates above neutral. Uh-oh. No reaction yet off of that, but that doesn't seem good. The yields in the yield is coming down a little bit. Yeah, that I don't think that I'm not sure really like if it goes away much. It's tough. That's why people write stuff down when they're giving speeches, is because they lose their train of thought. It's inevitable. It happens to me all the time. But I'm like an oversharer too. Like this weekend when we were like we had all the family over for Easter at my brother's house, and people are like, oh, like how's the stock market going? And I'm like, oh yeah, blah blah blah. And then like some other stuff comes up, and I'm like, oh yeah, you got to watch this, and then you got to watch this, and you got to watch that, and they're just like, I got a Fidelity account, and it's like, oh shit. If we can get some follow through here, you are getting a little bit of increasing volume as we're coming back up to the upside. So if any of you took that trade where we came back down to this lower volume, you know, we talked about having our stop down 10 points below that 43 to 33, and we're looking 20 points above, which is gonna be that 66. Um, you know, now would be a time to move your stop up. Yeah. I mean, it depends if you're going to play it out. I just think that the move looks kind of weak here. I think it's kind of we're not getting all the initiated buying, so I just don't know if they're going to have the gas to do it. Apple's almost back up over 1% here though, so they're still going up. Everything's flipping green here. Looks like we're getting some buying in the market, so maybe So if F breaks up right here and doesn't get above 55, let's be careful. We do have, what, 5 minutes left till the next bar opens up. Do you have any tips to identify the end of the move of a pullback, having issues to identify when it bounces off a level, or if it's just the end? I mean, so something like that, what I tend to look for is, so how the market's reacting when it gets back to some of these levels. And we've kind of seen, like, every time that it's come down and it came to these volume, it boom, a little short covering, right? And it's kind of, kind of telling me, like, these buyers are or these sellers are a little bit weak. And so when you start to see that, if the move's not over, like, let's say if we came down here and they were looking for more continuation, instead of just getting that those kind of pops back up, we would just come down and just sit, right? And the market would just start to build volume, and we would have probably got more volume down below than we did, right? Because we came down, the most of the volume was down here, right? It was these two blocks came down and then came back up, and then it just sat right here. And so then when it's sitting in a spot like this, and this is kind of what was making me unsure about this trade, is it was just sitting here, and I'm like, why aren't they just taking this thing higher? Well, it's because nobody wants to initiate, and so they value this area. That's pretty clear. um but I mean, really, that's all you can look for. And then even then, um there's no necessarily exactly correct answer, right? There's no uh there's no, like, concrete answer. The biggest thing, like yesterday, the way I was able to kind of identify that the market was done auctioning down is because we didn't get that volume to follow through with it. But right now we're still getting value building higher. We're still getting volume coming in higher. So it's hard to say that the up move is over. It's just I'm becoming less confident in it because we're not getting a continued extension to the upside, right? We're still one time framing and up, and that's, holding me, pretty much holding me in the trade. But it's not looking like the buyers are really willing to initiate towards this high of high in balance. Hopefully that helps, Patrick. Yeah, Pop, you should. That's what my dad does. My dad normally sends me a message about what he's thinking before what he's thinking. Every time I hear thinking Lincoln, he sends me, like, a what his analysis is before I post, or before he looks at mine. Sometimes it's before I post it too. Um, you know, and then looks at mine, and it's cool because I get to look at his and do a little compare and contrast. So I'm like, oh, wrong. So seller's main focus here, right, is gonna be to break the E low, right? If you're a seller, that's what you want to see. You want to see a cessation of one time framing, right? And so, like, as we're coming down, you see how kind of we came down a lot faster. So if we start to just sit here and start to fill in the volume down here, and the volume shifts down, then we have to continue to monitor for this continuation. But the key will be that E low. If they're able to break that E low, then you might see some more sellers enter the market. And that's how you kind of have to think about it. It's weird. It's a weird process, the auction, But some people, they're not going to sell, including myself. I'm not going to be shorting anything until we get a cessation of one-time framing. And even then, I don't know how convinced I'll be. Um, Here goes G period. Let's see if G's got the stone. So now we can see maybe F period, which is mechanical low, might try to get taken here. That G high is mechanical too, right? Right off that F half back. And see, so for me, not in a trade now. I'm unsure of what's going to happen. And so what I'm looking for is I'd like to see us, get back up here and fill in this weak volume if we're going to get any continuation higher. And to the low side, I'd love to see a little break of this F low and the price just sit right here so I could maybe try a little bit of this downside flavor, right? See if it's any good. Because there's such weak volume here that you might just get, if sellers are able to show up, you might just get some weak-handed longs that just liquidate, right? They get a little bit nervous, they liquidate. Well, here's the next spot that you should see responsive buying at, is down here to fill this in where they haven't got a chance to fill it in earlier. The downside in AMD tastes pretty good. Nice. Did AMD get smacked today? Oh, they're coming down off the top.
It went up. It went up and open, but I kind of took a chance at the first peak and bought some puts right I think just before it peaked, and then it dipped down, and then it went back up, and so then I was negative. So I'm just happy to see it actually back in positive territory.
I bought some AMD calls on Friday, but they're long. They're 2023 calls, and I'll add if we get back into this range. This is like my range to buy AMD. These two red lines. But that's more like a long term play. One of those ones you have to buy and close your eyes and not look at it unless you want to sell it. It'll be interesting too. So like um, the Fang stocks are the ones suffering the most, right? Or technically just like the highest beta stocks, right? They have the biggest opportunity for gain and the biggest opportunity for loss because they're the most volatile. Um, but what I think that we're kind of seeing is a little break off with a lot of these chip makers, which is why I think we're trying to see a lot of these tech stocks try to make their own chips. And that's also a reason why China wants to just take over Taiwan so they can, have a lot of those chips as well. But like we know Apple makes their own chips, Tesla's starting to make their own chips. Um, there's a couple of other people that are trying to make their own chips as well. I was reading. Someone bought June $120 calls. NBC. Oh, and STNE and Snap 35 calls. So the market's basically just coiling here, right? Just kind of like trapping on both sides. And this is, for me, a spot where you just don't want to be involved. And if you are involved and it goes your direction, boom, big winner, and you're fucking pumped. But when it doesn't, it's just the worst, right? And it's just, for me, the way that I trade is not, um, I'm not looking for homers. Sometimes I hit homers, but maybe like 30, 40 a year. I don't know baseball. Is that good? 40 home runs a year? Where's my dad at? He must not be around the computer. He knows baseball. But G High is mechanical still, so see if they can pop the top. Market's just, real slow right now. And like I said, it's just kind of coiling. I don't think it really knows what it wants to do, and it's just basically what's going to happen. You think about an auction, right? So we got our TV back out, and just going to call it. We'll just call it 50, right? Just gonna make it easier. 50. Bunch of people are buying TVs for 50. Bunch of people are selling TVs for 50. Well, eventually, what's gonna happen is people are gonna stop buying TVs for 50. This TV, right? This is Sony. They'll just stop. It's just a matter of that. Or people will stop selling it for 50 because so many people are buying it for 50 that it's not worth their time selling it for 50, and they want to sell it for 60. And then you'll start to see it come up. So as price auctions higher, and this is kind of what happens in a market when people come out with a new product. And I know this is kind of complicated, but people come out with a new product, they sell it for all kinds of different prices. Right? You'll see the same TV if you Google. I mean, we could even do it. What's who knows a good brand of TV? Let's just go to Amazon. Amazon. Let's do. What's this? We'll look up the computer monitor because that's what I always use. Okay, so here's our Alienware monitors, right? And they all do different things, but we're just gonna assume that it's the ES, right? So we're just looking at one product here. We'll only look at 240 hertz. That way we're all looking at similar. So look, this one's 319, this one's 309, 699, 299, 95, 399, 499, 299, 494. So this TV and this TV or this monitor, and this is the one I'm talking about in the boot camp. There's a break of that G low or the F low, but no continuation yet. But notice how the price just stood still right there. And look what's happening. We're getting some volume increase. Right? We didn't get that pop back up like we did the first time G came down there at that bottom. And so what happens is we have this TV and they bring it to market. They bring it to market at all kinds of different prices. Right? People are buying and selling. Well, as they start to see where fair value is at, it comes in. And then eventually supply is going to run out. There it goes. Or people are going to stop buying. And people stop buying this TV for $499 up here. Then they drift us back down. And that's kind of what's happening here now. Apple's getting smacked. Apple's down barely up 0.75% here. Microsoft 1%. Google 1.18. Amazon 2.6. Tesla's 1.9. Facebook 3% still. Facebook looks like the strongest one out there today. Nvidia's getting a lot of volume today too. So did you see, like, we came down, but this time we didn't get that little pop. We just held and then boom, flushed them. Right, still a weak low. I don't really like this low. And what we're looking for here is if they're going to buy it here. If these buyers that were so content on buying computers for $499, now they're down here at $439, are they going to buy it? Right, it's actually kind of worked out good. 49, whatever. But that's what we're looking for. We're looking to see if these buyers are going to buy it, right? And what we're also looking for is, are these shorts going to cover down here? So we've definitely got people short. You definitely got people late short with me, right? Obviously. Because some people are short all in here, some people are short up here. Are we going to get a little short covering? We're starting to see a little bit of short covering there, right? A little bit of still a weak low, but I mean, you see how fast that tempo comes up compared to how it came down. That's telling us that that's that little bit of short covering. So sellers are able to take it down because they have more inventory and not enough buyers are showing up to buy all this shit. AMD is barely 1.8. What's 1.8? Oh, 1.9%. Oh, yeah. Cover my shorter if I'm gonna really be looking to just hold and watch for continue. Elon Musk just said he's willing to invest 10 billion to 15 billion of his own cash for the Twitter bid. Bitcoin's coming down here now as well. Notice how we're just hanging out down here, right? We're not popping back up every single time. And so really what we'd like to see here, if on any pullback, if you're short, you don't want to see it really get above that 443 level. Really like 42.75. You don't really want to see us get above that level. Because if we do, could shake out some late shorts. There's obviously some people shorting down at the low here naturally. And it could shake them out and then could cover a little bit higher, especially on a day like today. And remember, value is higher, so the safer play today would be buying pullbacks. We took a little short right there just because it was like, pretty nice little setup. But we don't get married to these trades, right? If they don't just get continuation, then we just, be happy with what we got. There goes back over that 42.75 right here. This is where sellers, this is where the break was at, kind of the impulse. There it goes. They give it up. And that right there, that little pop, that's those weak-handed traders that sold the flow just getting out. They're like, you know what? I'm done. I tried the short. My last one, this is break even. If it hits me, it hits me. And then boom, that's what happens. Still under this 42.75 here. They were able to shake out the weak shorts and bring it back down. That shows a little bit of confidence there. See, and that's where the auction shows you it's those little nuances right there that are like almost impossible to incorporate into a class, right? It's like you have to see it live, and we just saw it. Like we got the market to auction up, right? Or not we, but like the market auctioned up, got to that 42.75. We saw it pop, come right back down. We identified it, shook out weak shorts. That's confident, and then boom, the market comes back down to where the buying was at last time, right? And what did we see? We saw, volume starting to increase down here, right? It's just it's those kind of little things, that little nuance. I know that's not a, you know, drastic move, but it's those kind of little nuances that can kind of give you insight onto who's being more active, right? And on a day like today, I would say that responsive sellers are being a bit more active than initiated buying up here at the high. Still not a huge fan of the G high or the G low, to be honest with you. They both look mechanical. Take a look at the volume. Volume's increasing 4.5% higher than it was on Friday. Oh yeah, I can. The CR chart layout? Yeah. You're talking about this chart right here, Patrick? And so I've actually figured out there's actually a better way to look at this chart. Is like this. And so and I made the volume profile on it. I made it the same color as the background on purpose. So basically what this is just showing you is it's showing you when you're getting these high volumes, and I have it on 15 minutes like for where we are right now, but you can change it to 30. You could change it, I mean, like if we change it to 30, it'll look, I mean, it's going to look very, you know, similar. Right? The volume is kind of getting here, and what it's doing is it's basing it on up volume versus down volume. So like a lot of times if you're seeing all of this volume up at the top, right, and it's blue and you're not getting any continuation, well, that's telling you a lot of people are lifting the offer and we're not getting any continuation. And kind of the same thing on the downside, right? A lot of people are selling the bid and we're not getting any continuation. The numbers, the reason I like the numbers is just because it gives me oops, that's the wrong one, the start and end to the bar. It just gives me like, so I can see where the high and the low of this last like 30-minute bar or 15-minute bar, whatever you're using. But it's just a way to kind of see where the volume's at. So you can see where more people are competing, right? There's no imbalance or anything like that. you're just seeing where they're competing at, and where people are more, or where people compete more shows more interest, right? So if we start to get more volume to come up higher above this kind of consolidation of volume, if we're really looking at this, right, you're seeing, all the volume come in from like 47 to 40 for the most part. I mean, maybe this is a little bit higher. Yeah, it's like 47 to 40. All the volumes kind of in here since we've moved up, right? This is B period, C, D, E, F, and G. We're on G now. 9 minutes left. And so it tells you where all the volume is at. And so what we're looking to see is if price gets above this and volume starts to come in, get on board with that. And same thing to the downside. Volume comes in below, and we get below, right? You see how this volume came in pretty much the same spot as that. People tend to, be creatures of habit. So that's kind of why I like this. I have it on my screen zoomed out like this. So if you can't read the numbers, neither can I, because they just don't matter. I'm using it to track value. I'm using it to help me track value. And if we put it, next to this, we can kind of see if I line it up correctly. Kind of tough to line it up correctly. If I put it on the top, it wants to be gigantic. But I mean, you can kind of see where all the volume's coming in. We see it here. This just breaks it down a little bit better. So if I do want to try to play in the danger zone, or earlier when I was looking to buy in that E period and then sell in that G period, that's why I was saying, like, hey, down here is a spot where you got to tell yourself, like, okay, this is not worth it, right? And I drew the line in the sand, 42.75 for me, that I didn't want to, if it came back up above that, I didn't want to be a participant in that. But that's pretty much how I'm using that chart. It's not probably not the typical use or order flow. Hey, Sean. That people are used to and looking for, like, imbalances and blah 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 shit like that. I think that is just too much exactness. And one thing, if anything, that you'll hear Jim Dalton drive home is, like, you've got to stop worrying about exactness. It's just gonna drive you insane. Right? And that's what I think, exactness. People are looking for something exactly to happen for them to get into a trade, and then they wonder why they don't trade. Or with anything, with your, just the way that the brain works is because, like, 75% of your brain is dedicated to vision, it picks up on patterns naturally to make your life easier. Some people are more inept when it comes to recognizing patterns than others, but it's going to eventually pick up on patterns. So if you're spending a lot of time on the charts and you're looking at something like this constantly, where you're looking at, if you're zoomed in maybe a little bit more and you're looking at these numbers, you're looking for whatever you're looking for, your brain is going to see it a lot more than it's actually going to be there, most likely, because that's how it works. Think about when you buy a new car and then you fucking see that car everywhere, or you're thinking about buying a new car and you look it up online and then you see it everywhere, right? It's not like Amazon has an ad they can send you, be like, hey, all Ultima drivers, go ahead and drive by Brad's house real quick so he can see a bunch of Ultimas. No, it's just that's how your brain works. It picks up on those things, and it's the same way on the order flow chart. I think there is some advantage of the order flow chart when you are disciplined, but like when people just teach the order flow chart and they swear that they only trade off the order flow chart, they're probably not very good traders. My opinion. Because until they understand the auction, what's the point of even looking at the numbers in the auction? What do you care? Right? If you can't even understand the auction and where value's going, then drilling into it and looking at every single bid and every single offer isn't going to fucking help you at all. You know what I mean? You've got to, it's like trying to run before you can crawl. And then even then, it's just a tool that, you know, some people can pick up on the pattern and some people can't. It's definitely not as you know, amazing as people want it to be. But it does a pretty good job at tracking value, right? Tracking where volume's coming in. That's why I like it. And especially if we look at it, you know, if you look at it in a little bit zoomed out, or we can look at some past information, you can kind of see, right? We can see kind of where all the volume's coming in, and this is in 30 minutes. And so like I see just like where the volume's coming in just in that 30-minute bar, and it just gives me a look back, because when we're looking at the TPO, it's hard to remember. We see what's happening in the current bar here, but it's hard to remember exactly where like buyers or sellers were most active in the period before this, right? Unless you write it down. That's a lot of work. And so for here, you know, we're still, like I said, trapped kind of in between this 40 to 47. We start to get some buying above. Really, we need to see buying above 56. We want to get any real continuation, but a bit of short covering there. Coming back down to that 42.75 level, starting to see short covering here. Every time it ticks down, it ticks right back up. See that? And that's another thing too with patterns also that you've got to be careful with. Uh, and this is why it all comes back to understanding yourself and reading and understanding your brain, because what happens is when you have a bias, it can really absorb that pattern recognition. You'll start only, you know, your brain will start only recognizing the patterns that you want to see. And if you're looking for downside, you know, you'll only start recognizing those patterns for the downside and ignore or just not even notice the alternate signals, the alternate patterns. Back to that 42.75 here. Let's see what happens. This is an interesting spot here. We saw that for the first time in about an hour, a volume decrease right there. Still above yesterday's volume, but a little bit of a decrease on that last G session, which is pretty normal. We're coming into we're coming into the New York lunchtime. Who's ready for some music? Let's get amped up real quick, right? Got these dip buyers. Let's get amped up real quick. Who wants to get amped up? Anyone got a song request? I figured out how to turn off all monetization for the channel, so
No more strikes.
I can't get a strike. Yeah. Or how to just make sure it doesn't do it automatically. So if it does like turn on ads or whatever, it I'd have to do it. It won't just do it automatically. What do we got going here? About earnings season. Josh's song has on his new album. He has earnings season. You guys starting to get some buying in here. Apple's almost back up over 1%. Microsoft, Google. Yeah, let's listen. How about this? Share my sound.
I don't do the pretty lines, I trade a different reason. You don't like what's on my mind, you can mute your TV. They buying THC, we buying TLT. I could go and change your life before, not third day. You should go and change your mind to buy ACB. You should do the right steps, it's the ABC.
Yeah, I have a good one. This one's kind of not the motivation one. This is a motivation one. There we go.
Yeah, it's a car, baby. 2020. Yeah. I came for nothing, they telling me shit. Cancel my soul cause I'm already rich. Shooting my shot cause you know I won't miss. My profit on net, so I'm calling it switch. I came for nothing, they telling me shit. Cancel my soul cause I'm already rich. Shooting my shot cause you know I won't miss. My profit on net, so I'm calling it switch. I came for nothing, they telling me shit. Cancel my soul cause I'm already rich. Shooting my shot cause you know I won't miss. miss. My profit on that, so I'm calling it switch. I came for nothing, they telling me shit. Cancel my soul, cause I'm already rich. Shooting my shot, cause you know I won't miss. My profit on that, so I'm calling it switch. I'm at that bank, bitch. I caught it off the glass. And if I can't hit, you know I look to pass. You should do the math. We wasn't supposed to have, not even half. But it's crazy how I doubled that. I think I make a toast. My bro went Holy Ghost. And you know I never ever forget about my coat. Show them how to work the well when the water low. Yeah, how mamas raised us well, and that clearly show. Really though, we did evolve. We don't need your pretty clothes, don't need a glow and show. We planting seeds and reaping goals. Post on fees, but nothing grows. Awoke my beast and eating more. I love to teach, this ain't a show. You wanna see that eat before. I came for nothing, they telling me shit. Cancel my soul, cause I'm already rich. Shooting my shot, cause you know I won't miss. My perfect on that, so I'm calling it switch. I came for nothing, they telling me shit. Cancel my soul, cause I'm already rich. Shooting my shot, cause you know I won't miss. My perfect on that, so I'm calling it switch. I came for nothing, they telling me shit. Cancel my soul, cause I'm already rich. Shooting my shot, cause you know I won't miss. My profit on that, so I'm calling it switch. I came for nothing, they telling me shit. Cancel my soul, cause I'm already rich. Shooting my shot, cause you know I won't miss. Profit on that, so I'm calling it switch. I'm at that bank, bitch. Feel like I'm young Jerome. My interest rate is cut down to super lows. If you talking about that money, hoes and stupid clothes, don't ask me about the car I drove. Ask if I sell a home. This game is truly free. They scared to mention me, cause if the truth get more attention, they can't charge a fee. Show them how to sell that preem when it get too deep. Never move like you hungry if you didn't eat.
There we go. A little motivation. Let's get a little pumped up. You know, Josh motivates me, so I like to share him with the world. Even though he doesn't trade. I mean, he does. He traded a little bit of futures, but he's more of an options trader. But he, you know, he's cool. So cool people need to be shared with the world. I feel like, you know, and not like kept a secret. That shit used to bother me so much in the military. The secretive information. You'd go to like these meetings, right? Especially when I was a platoon sergeant, you know, you go to all these meetings with all the leaders, get all this information, and then the other platoon sergeants wouldn't share the information with their platoon. They would just keep it for themselves, like it was some, you know, made them feel like they had the power. When in reality, what would happen is like later on, something wouldn't be done, and our boss, the first sergeant, would be like, "Hey, why the fuck are you doing this?" And then their boss would be like, they would say, "Oh, my platoon sergeant didn't tell me to do anything, or I didn't know about, you know, X, Y, Z." And because, you know, they get that power. So I think you know, when you find stuff that is beneficial for you, you know, the only thing you can do is share it, right? Like, hey, look, I found this lake that has water in it. Want some? Right? And then that's it. If someone likes how the water tastes, then they'll drink some more. If they don't, you know, no harm, no foul. A lot of people, you know, for some reason don't like Josh because he's kind of wild and obnoxious. He reminds me of Ramon. You know, he's just funny. And he's smart as fuck when it comes to the market in general. You know, he knows a lot about economics. A little bit of short covering there again. So you can see like how there's just not a lot of conviction yet. See if we can get below this 40. I mean, they're just not. I mean, we are starting to get some good volume coming down though. Look, here's the volume point of control. This is something that we were looking for. Not surprised that it happens right on that 42.75. See if we can get some conviction here. Below 40, we could get a nice little spill down to about 37, which is where we could expect them to, you know, expect these responsive buyers to step back up, and, you know, a little bit of short covering. We still see, you know, a little bit of short covering here. And there's just no conviction. Not yet. And then the same thing with Bitcoin, right? Remember we talked about this. It came up, had this kind of check above, kind of do the same thing, but it's not holding, right? We liked it if it was able to hold above this level. There'd be some opportunity to take it up here around that 42,000, but it's just not looking great here now. Now we're one time framing off of the high down, right? E, F, G, H. I mean, H is still inside, but EFG is one time framing off the high. And that's another thing too. You've got to remember, like I said, the market auctions up, and then the auction to the upside finishes, and then the market starts to auction down, then the auction down to the downside finishes, and the market starts to auction up. And so a lot of times when we're one time framing up, which is showing us a bit of trend, a lot of times the trend ending is the market just starts to one time frame down as well. Like it just, little I must have stayed in a Holiday Inn last night. Yeah, they got to get below 40 here. Below 40 could bring us down to 34, and then I mean really like probably 30. 30 was kind of that first spot that initiated buyer showed up. 30 to 34 really. Let's take a let me take a peek around the market at what kind of options action market's getting today in preparation for some of the earnings. Yeah, it's not. So people are buying calls on on Apple today. People are on a lot of spreads on the expensive stuff. But a lot of people look like they're buying calls on Facebook as well. Makes sense. Facebook's up 3% today. Johnson and Johnson's got earnings this afternoon, and it looks like people are selling puts for the most part. But I mean, it looks pretty spready, if you ask. We got Netflix today, right? Yeah, it looks like a spread on that. Well, no real solid info. Or not nothing that really. Back up at this 42.75 here. Look for the reoffer. But look for them to sell it again. If they don't sell it again from here, then they're going to cover, and there it goes. A little bit of short covering there. Looks like people are selling puts on the NASDAQ. So people are bullish on tech, it looks like, so far to start this week. So TNX still pulled off the top decently. That bar. A way to make them. Be cool if you can get like in between this. Volume's still not over 1 million yet. Look, now we've seen the volume shift down to this level, like holy 23,000, right? About a couple thousand above any other spot here. And look at the level below, 19,000. So we're seeing volume shift down as we're one time framing down. So basically this is telling me I could probably look for a short here with a stop at this H high. You know, I mean, I might give you a little bit of that, a little bit of down, but maybe even at the G high, 43, 47. So you're looking about 4 points. So we're looking down here, 43 minus 14 would be what? 29.
Sounds right.
And then we talked about how this 30 to 34, is that the level that I said? Yeah, I think it was 30 to 34. So I mean there's some opportunity there. I'm not gonna do that. And if it goes down, it's just gonna go down without me. Today, like I said, value shifting higher. I've already hit my goal, so if I'm gonna take any trades, they're gonna be responsive. Long trades today. I mean, you just got, so the breadth is 2.23 on the NYSE, 3 to 1 on the NASDAQ, almost 3.5 to 1 on the NASDAQ. We've got, you know, the tick doesn't really look very weak at all. It's just kind of hanging out, not really doing much, more consolidating, just like the market is. And then a lot of stuff is green. What is kind of making me think about a downside trade really, or just kind of bringing it to light, is that Apple is not very strong up here. Normally when the market wants to get something done, it kind of needs Apple to play ball. Just such a big you know, just such a big player. So really what I'd like to see is I'd like to see Apple get green and we can take this upside. That's where the weakness is, because on the downside, we know that a lot of people didn't get a chance to buy all of this, and so they might show up, right? Because we talked about the 35 to 25 being a spot where the market's been valued. So I wouldn't be surprised to see people buy in here. So what I'd rather see is us go up here because we know where the seller is at, right? And if we even move up a little bit, we identified that seller earlier and they're right here. Whoa, my mouse is fucking psycho. You know, this 50, what did we say? 52 to 56, I think, is the levels that I have marked on my chart. So 52 and then up right above that T2 high 56 is where we most likely will see responsive sellers. So what I'd like to see is get above that. Seems like it'd be a higher opportunity trade of, you know, if this thing does pull down, get some responsive buying, get a piece of that, look to trade it back up into this 45 and then up above into that 56, because we know above that 56, the target is going to be closer up here. And really, if we get that 66, then that 200 moving average starts to get on people's charts, and they're like, fucking psychotics trying to buy that. Need to get it to there. Struggle fest down here trying to get it back below this 40 these sellers are. Just watching the volume, guys. That's all I'm doing. Staring at this volume. Apple's coming down a bit, 80% here. Or 80.8%, 80%. 0.8%. Ooh, Apple's coming down kind of quick here. For AMD.
I've been holding this thing for a long time. I'm ready to be done. I've been holding it for 2 hours, 2.5 hours now.
I mean, if you look at this, like, I mean, it just looks like it's just short covering, you know what I mean? Like, it's just in that P shape. It just looks like that's what it's doing, AMD does. So,
And maybe that is what it is, but it just keeps. Well, it's been kind of sideways trading, so maybe that's exactly what it is. I just
that's,
keep seeing these indicators showing that. Yeah, see, I'm starting to see dip in the sector.
yeah.
Oh yeah, there we go. Now
and
I'm
it
seeing
should
a little
be.
bit more.
Yeah, and normally short covering is a sign that, you know, there's not any new money buying. So the only buying is people getting out of shorts, and that's good for the downside a lot of times. Hopefully get a little break here. On the ES, we're looking for that break. I'd like to see us break down into like that 35, 30 range before I become a buyer. And if you did take that short, right, just be a little bit careful here for, you know, buyers to jump back on board. So here's 35. All right, Patrick, we'll see you later. Here's I session. Volume wise. Not an increase, a decrease of volume total. Still about 2%, almost 3% more than yesterday. That period. Got some trap sellers there down at the 33 quarter, it looks like. I mean 35 quarter. So if you did take a long there, I mean during that H, I didn't come down to 35, but if you did end up taking a long, you know, be careful because this could just be a little bit of short covering from that H period that was, you know, obviously short. the key here would be to get above that 42.75. That's going to be our level that we'll watch for the rest of the day. So look for it to come, if it does come back up to that 42.75, look for them to reoffer it. If they don't reoffer it, then we can start assuming that the auction's probably not over to the upside, and our target will become at 56. Yeah, 56. So notice the volume that's kind of stepping in right here up on that 39. $40 level is a pretty mechanical number. Let me take a peek around the market real quick. Yeah. Sectors all look pretty. Utilities are kind of weak. Everything's pretty much in a consolidation for the most part. All of our bigger names. Well, a little bit of selling off the 40, right? Mechanical number, they don't hold it. So we're still watching this 42.75, where all the volume has been kind of coming in on this downside. Right, and think about this profile like this, right? This is how we have to this is how we have to think about the profiles. We did this on Thursday last week, right? It worked out great. We have this initial move. This was our stem of the P. Well, now we have excess, excess, and this is just kind of a neutral profile for the most part, right? Excess up here, excess to the low, and you kind of see this neutral profile forming. So what I'm looking for here is, we are kind of getting this 45-degree angle off the top already. We're starting to kind of get a 45-degree angle off the bottom. We still haven't made any clear direction on which way that it's going to go. I'd like us to get back above this 43, right? That'll give me a little bit more confidence to stay in this long to trade up to that 56, which is what I'm looking for. You're still seeing a little bit of reoffering coming in here on the 40, right? This, and remember the 40 was our kind of our bottom of our little spot. We said 40 to 47, so it makes sense that they're trying to sell here. We just gotta, be patient. That's all we can do. Patience gets you paid, right? Oh, you guys want to hear something cool? Me and my wife are sitting on the couch, and you guys know I've lost like a bunch of weight, and I've really been focused on like getting my body better back into shape, so I can stream every day, right? And that was kind of the thing, is the reason I stopped streaming is mainly due to health issues and wanting to get back to 100%. So now I'm just feeling better, but I've been talking about it too because I think it's important to talk about it. And I'm talking with my wife, and we're sitting on the couch, and this fly goes by, and I just like whoosh, snatched it out of the air with my left hand, right in front of her too. And then just looked at her right after, like, fucking see that shit? That's pretty cool. So kind of a cool story, for me. If you didn't like it,
Did you do it with chopsticks or no?
I'm not that healthy. Okay.
I mean, Mr. Miyagi did it.
Just ruin something good, huh, Jared? Here we are, telling a good story, and then next time I will. I'm gonna go buy some metal chopsticks, and I'm just gonna record myself all the time, let a bunch of flies in my house, and just fucking start snatching them. My son was telling.
Video or it didn't happen?
Oh, I'll video it. My son was telling me today as I was dropping him off from school. He's like, Dad, on Thursday last week at school, I saw a daddy long leg. I KO'd it. All my friends were like, oh. Because I don't like him to say kill. So he says either KO'd or eliminated.
He's like, I sent him back to the lobby, Dad.
Exactly, yeah. Still holding this 40 level for now. And honestly, a lot of this week could be like this. I really do think that, most of this week will be spent inside balance. I fucking hate trading view. So I really think, like, as we're in a 6-day balance now, we had this kind of a little bit of extension of balance, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days of balance. I won't be surprised to see us stay in this balance as we come into the Fed meeting on Thursday. And it's actually a twofer because Chair Powell's on twice that day. On Friday, he's on at 11 Eastern, and then he's on again at 1 Eastern. So Time is it? 10:40. All right. About time to work out, guys. Appreciate it, Sean. Thank you. Yeah, I feel really good.
If you're able to catch a fly in midair, does that make you a fly ninja?
Must be. I have no idea.
I can neither confirm nor deny.
Yeah. I could tell you, but I'll have to kill you.
All right. Well, good job, Jacoby.
Appreciate it. Yeah, I think I'm gonna call it here. We're starting to just get slow. I mean, as soon as we end the stream, normally we get the nice breakout that we're waiting for. So I might as well just do us all a favor, and we'll see what's happening. So let's go over some levels before we get for the day. We know that 42, 42, 75, 43 level is going to be kind of the key level. We need to see the market get above it in order to get some continuation of the upside. We do have a mechanical. Oops, I'm telling you, my mouse. Maybe my mouse is dying. We get batteries. We do have this kind of mechanical G high, and we do have a weak low here with this H and I low being pretty much the same. You can see where all of the value is at, and this, like I said, if we just break this profile apart at C, we see a profile that's just balanced, right? Excess on the high, excess on the low. So until we start really to test this excess on either side, honestly, you should be buying breaks and selling rallies. That's what that's what the profile is telling us, right? The reason that I've been more of a buyer than a seller today is because value is up, right? And we had that kind of failure rejection of balance low. So typically, if you go to the point of control, and that point of control was 25 to 35, and get above it and establish some value, there's good odds that we trade back to the opposite end of balance. And that opposite end of balance is $67, which is why the target's 66, because I'll take it off right before. And then to the low side, right? I mean, that 35 to 25 is going to be a spot where we see responsive buying, right? We've seen it before. Value is there, so it makes sense if buyers buy it again. Just science. All right, Trin, have a good day. Adam, you too. Jamie. Running out of that mental capital. Yeah, it's tough, man. Sometimes you need a good break. Right? So a lot of times what I do is I'll take my iPad out back because I'm gonna work out in the backyard today probably, and do a screen share so I can see the TPO while I'm out there, and then just watch the TPO. Every time I come, close to the door, I can see the TPO and see where it's at, and judge for opportunity from there. Sometimes you just need to take your eyes off the screen and refresh that mental capital and build back better.
You can't set like alerts or anything.
What's that? Oh, I could set up alerts, but I just won't be, because I'm gonna have my headphones in and I'm gonna be listening to music, so the alerts probably won't come through. Plus, I'm not really worried about getting in another trade today, to be honest. One thing I do like to do is I really like to watch at least the last, like, 15-20 minutes of the auction. I mean, ultimately I like to watch the whole auction. Gives you the good understanding. But if you don't have time to just sit here and just watch the auction go on, get the good parts. Watch the open. If you're not watching the open, you're doing yourself a disservice, and watch the close, right? Because what do we say? Time regulates opportunity. And so that the beginning of the auction is going to show face, and the end of the auction is going to show face. So you're going to get to see the beginning and the end of the auction, and you can just at least look through the middle of the auction. So if you have to limit your time and you're only able to look at 2 points of or a certain amount of time on the chart, I would go for the first hour and the last hour. Those would be your two best hours to watch. Now, if you're going to trade, you might get stuck at the computer for a little bit more time if you get in a trade within those time frames. But those are going to be the most important hours to watch the auction for sure. But yeah, other than that, make sure that you guys are managing risk and having a trade plan. If you don't have a trade plan, don't trade. If you don't have a trade plan because you don't know how to have a trade plan, go look in our old videos. I posted everything you need to know about how to make a trade plan, starting from the monthly, weekly, daily, 30-minute TPO. Those are the only things that you really need. And then, I love me a weekly VWAP on crypto. Gives us a nice sense of what's going on. Other than that, you guys have a wonderful day. Get some workouts in. Do something to get that blood flowing. If you feel yourself getting numb to the chart, like I said, take a break from it and then jump back on later for that last hour. Other than that, you guys have a wonderful day, and I will catch you guys later.